So recently, a bunch of unaired pilots found their way online, dating back to the 90s. What I want to do is look at these pilots and determine two things. 1. Did it have potential? And 2. How different would popular culture be if this pilot was picked up for series? Today we're opening up the pilot vault and looking at the pilot for a show called Mr. Ed, a remake of the 60s Talking Horse sitcom from 2004. This time round, the title character has an urban sensibility. That's how the plot describes it anyway. This pilot has David Allen Bash as Wilbur Post and Sherilyn Finn from Twin Peaks as his wife. Already this is a big change from the 60s version, as the original Wilbur didn't have any kids and he was an architect. This Wilbur is a lawyer. His daughter is played by Sarah Paxton, who you may remember as playing Marnie in the last Halloween Town movie. Why they recast that role is a complete mystery to me. Oh, and she's in The Last House on the Left. She and Garrett Dillahunt, the guy who plays Jim in this pilot, they later go on to star in that movie together. Now, the episode begins with Mr. Ed talking over some shots of New York City, talking about how the family moved away from the city to a farm because the city was too exciting. We meet Mr. Ed. He's a very different Mr. Ed than the one in the classic 60s sitcom. Sherman Hemsley, the dad from the Jeffersons, is the voice, and it really doesn't work.
I don't know what he'd do if he ever found out at the time that I gotta go.
It feels so wrong when shows that are obviously not shot in front of a studio audience have a laugh track. Look at this, they're clearly outside.
Bugs started coming in through the air vents.
Look, sweetheart, I know.
What's with the canned laughter? Do they really think that American audiences are so dumb they won't know when to laugh? Oh wait, there's no jokes in this pilot, that's why it's there. Because there'd be no laughter otherwise. Wilbur takes his wife to the barn to show off how he's going to change it into a law office. Enter Jim to audience laughter, despite not really making a joke. So many awful jokes in this sitcom are followed by a laugh track. It's kind of sensory overload. Just constantly bad joke after bad joke is made. It felt like I was watching this episode on 2 times speed. I actually had to slow it down to 0.75 times speed in order to process any of it and make notes. Less than a minute into this one, and there is absolutely no mystery as to why this didn't sell. No wonder it was left at the pilot stage. We then get an updated version of the theme song, which I genuinely hated. It's not good at all. This pilot is a prime example of how to take a great classic show and make something truly dreadful. Fox is the network that made this pilot, so of course they had to do some kind of twist on it. But I'm not sure who this show was for, really. It's too edgy for kids, too cheesy for adults, too modern for first generation fans of the original show. It's just bad. It missed every step of the way. Let me just play a clip of some of the jokes he made.
People in the country drive out to the country?
Oh yeah, they got nothing out there.
It's awful, isn't it? How am I meant to talk about this? Some of these jokes are so bad, they don't even get laughs from the laugh track. Like Jim, the handyman, he just straight up does a reference to the Elephant Man.
I am not an animal!
And we're meant to laugh because, you know, reference to a famous thing.
Hey, crap on that! You the man of the house!
Whenever Ed talks, I cringe. The horse's voice is so wrong, and the lip movement is just a prime example of awful CGI. The horse in the original series was trained to move his lips naturally, so it looked like he was talking. That was a smart horse. Why couldn't he have just taught a horse to do that again? The guy who plays Jim is so painfully unfunny. He enters every scene yelling at the top of his lungs. Then when he isn't yelling, he's muttering awful joke. Look how terrible this joke is.
Oh yeah, little downward dog.
You just looking at my wife's ass?
Busted.
That's just awful. Everything about this is dreadful. Wilbur finds out that Mr. Ed is a talking horse and says, "Whoever did this, you really pulled it off." Now, unfortunately, nobody said this in any of the test screenings for this pilot. Mr. Ed tells Wilbur to behead his own daughter.
Now you slap a muzzle on that kid, chop off her head and make her ugly, and stick her in a room till she's 21.
Then goes silent when his wife comes over.
Why didn't you say something for my wife?
Listen, there are two things in this world I don't trust. Women and elk.
Why didn't you talk to my wife?
I hate skeptics.
Wilbur takes his daughter for a ride on Mr. Ed. And honestly, it creeped me out. She was 16 years old in 2004, playing a 15-year-old, and Mr. Ed talks inappropriately about her short skirt. Honestly, it feels icky. The original series is so fun and comforting. Why did they do this? I watched an episode of the original series last night as I was trying to get to sleep, and it was so fun and chill. I was hoping to watch it and bring some of that knowledge into reviewing this pilot, but now I just regret watching the original series because I know how good it used to be. And it really does highlight how dreadful this is. Mr. Ed makes a phone call, warning someone to stay away from Wilbur's daughter. He poses as Wilbur for the call, making the daughter fall out with him after they made a connection during the horse ride. Listen to this so-called joke.
Yeah, but on the bright side, it's your virgin daughter freaking out, not some little hoe on the prairie.
And, you know, while we're at it, listen to this so-called joke.
Can we turn on the light?
No, it's kinkier in the dark.
I'm not even going to talk about them. What can I say about those lines? I'm genuinely fuming at what this show believed was comedy. Mr. Ed lures the daughter's boyfriend to the barn, then makes him strip off his clothes and smother peanut butter all over himself. I hated hearing Mr. Ed doing sexy talk. If we paired this up with the audio of the heavy smoker from Carlton Your Doorman, we could make the most unsexy conversation ever made.
Are you busy right now?
No, it's kinkier in the dark.
Ooh.
And that's all you're getting of that. If you want more of that, call this number on screen. It charges 50 pence a minute. Jim goes to take Mr. Ed away. Is he meant to fit in that horse transport thing? There's no way he'd fit in there, is there? But anyway, that's besides the point. Wilbur saves him, which causes Jim to say this.
You know, Pope, there's something weird going on between you and this horse. Not sexy weird, but weird.
Why did his mind even go there? It's so weird and unfunny. It reminds me of in Dear Evan Hansen when the kid was like, "What's this letter? A weird sex thing?" And it wasn't funny then.
Letter to yourself. I mean, what is that? Like some kind of sex thing?
Why are they doing it? I'm lost for words. This is dreadful. I hate it. It's ridiculous how anyone thought this was funny. Wilbur's wife tries to sleep with him in the barn, but Ed is a pervert, so Wilbur puts a stop to it. And we end on Mr. Ed making a joke about his genitals. Because of course it does. I am relieved that Fox never gave the green light to this insulting reboot of the original show. From the second I heard Mr. Ed's voice, I knew it was doomed. A different voice for the horse, perhaps with a deeper tone or something. That could have helped, but even that wouldn't patch up all the holes in this sinking ship of a pilot. The attempt to mock both classic sitcoms as a whole and the original series was painfully obvious. It's no wonder Fox couldn't sell this to anyone. They completely missed the mark with Mr. Ed in every possible way. I can't believe Hollywood's creativity had already run dry all the way back in 2004. You see, I have fond memories of watching Mr. Ed when I was a kid. I was captivated by its vintage charm and Wilbur's genuine love for that horse. But this new version doesn't live up to the essence of it. It's named Mr. Ed, but it feels like an entirely different show. I know they were trying to go for this different fish out of water type of story, but it didn't work. It failed. Now, how could they have done this differently? I think maybe if they followed Ed's son and Wilbur's son, so we're sort of following the next generation. I feel like that would have been a nice way to do something different without crapping on the original show. The inappropriate humour was in particular a huge issue. It genuinely felt like they went, I know what the kids love nowadays. Inappropriate sexual humour and awful innuendos. Oh, and make Jim a complete weirdo, because random humour is all the rage. I'm very surprised they didn't make a reference to how epic Bacon was. That feels like it fit right in with this pilot. This new Mr. Ed deviated drastically from the morally upright characters of the classic 60s show. It felt like a failed attempt from the very beginning. It lacked the charm and the essence of the original series. If a remake is considered in the future, it should try and recapture that same spirit, and at least stick to the values that made the original show so beloved. Otherwise, just leave it, don't touch it. The first thing they should do if they do attempt this again is cut out the dirty jokes. It has no place in Mr. Ed. It doesn't belong here. So what did we learn from this? Why am I even pretending? We earned absolutely nothing from this, apart from how not to adapt a sitcom from the 60s. This was so much worse than everything we've ever talked about on Pilot Vault. It was worse than Queen Bee. It was worse than Separated at Work. If anything, I'd put this further down if I could. I genuinely don't think anything will be knocking this off its spot for a very long time. Are there any other unaired pilots you want me to talk about? They can be better or worse than this one. Let me know in the comments. And subscribe, we're trying to make it to 4K, so help us out with that. Right, I'm gonna let you go. Bye.